This video is going to cover the first 15 questions from the 2015 released SOL. This is covering the newer standards, and it does have some technology enhanced items. So let's get started with number one. Number one, we're dealing with a Venn diagram. So we've been doing this all year. It says which Venn diagram accurately represents the information in the following statement. So we have an if-then statement. If a triangle is equilateral, then it is isosceles. So our two key words here are if and then. So remember, what goes in the if, or what comes after the if, is called our hypothesis. We abbreviate that with a P, and the conclusion is the Q. So what we've always said is that the smaller circle in the Venn diagram is the hypothesis, the outer one's the conclusion. So we should have something where we have an equilateral triangle on the inside and isosceles on the outside. The only one that fits that description is B. So B will be our answer for number one. Question 2, it says the graph of line J is shown. Again, here's our key word, which. Which ratio represents the slope of a line parallel to line J. So remember, parallel lines have the same slopes. So all I have to do is count how big is my slope. So I go up 1, 2, 3, going up 3, to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my slope is just going to be 3 over 7. I don't need to reduce that. The answer to number 2 is A. Number 3, we're given directions. It says click and drag the answers to the correct boxes. So we're going to let P represent Brent works this summer. Q represents Brent takes a vacation. So in order to do this, we need to recall what some of these other symbols mean. This symbol right here means then. Another symbol that's important is this one, which means not. And a third one that you'll need to know is the 3 dots, which means therefore. So it says if Brent works this summer. Well, that's P. Brent works this summer. If P, then there's our arrow, he will not take a vacation. So we have Brent takes a vacation, so we're using not Q. So if P, then not Q. So the first one we're going to have, let me try to erase that. Slide this one up here. The next one says Brent takes a vacation. Well, that's just Q. Brent takes a vacation is Q. So all I need to do is slide the letter Q into the second box. The last one says therefore. So remember, our symbol for therefore was the 3 dots. Brent does not work this summer. So Brent does not work this summer. That means it's going to be not Q. Therefore, not Q. And that's it for that one. This one says, which type of construction is illustrated in this figure? Well, I'm going to draw this out to kind of help you. This is the compass. So what's happening is the first step, we're putting our compass right on the dot. And actually, we're doing it over here first. And we're making an arc. So we go over to the dot. And we make that arc right there. Then the next thing you do is you go to where the arc intersected your original line, and we unlock it and we spread it out to where it touches right there. So there's my second arc. Do the same thing. The last thing I would do to copy the angle, which is the correct answer, we are making an angle congruent to a given angle. is I would just take my line tool and put it right from the dot through the intersection. Question 3 says the diagrams represent the stripes that could be used to mark parking spaces on a lot. Based only on the information given, here's our key word, which diagram could be used to prove lines AB is parallel to line CD and line AC is parallel to line BD? Well, let's take a look. We have these two angles here. This tells us that the consecutive interior angles are congruent. So all we know now is that these two lines will be parallel. We're not given enough information to say that line AB and line CD is parallel though. Of course we know this is 125, but we don't know anything else from this. We also know this is 55, but in no way do we have any information to tell us that the other two lines are parallel. So let's take a look at, so A isn't the right answer. Let's take a look at letter B. So this time we have these two angles. These are alternate interior angles are congruent. So that tells us that we have line AC and line BD are congruent. We also have consecutive interior angles there. So that's enough information to tell us line AB is parallel to line CD. So B is going to be the correct answer. Let's try the other ones though. What does this tell us? Well, 55 will tell us that we have these two lines parallel, AB and CD, but we don't have enough information to tell us anything about BD and AC. With letter D, we have these two lines will be parallel. But again, we run into the same problem with letter A. We don't have enough information to tell us that anything else is parallel, that AB is parallel to CD. So B is the correct answer. C and D do not work. Number 6 says, given statements, if a shape is a parallelogram, then opposite angles are congruent. A rhombus is a parallelogram. Which is a logical conclusion from the given statements? So this is going to be the law of detachment. All we're doing here, a rhombus is a parallelogram, so that means a rhombus has opposite angles that are congruent. So our answer is just letter A. This problem says which figure appears to have exactly two lines of symmetry. So if you're taking a look at this, we can use our line tool to help us out here. If we're looking at lines of symmetry, you should see that we have one pretty easy there. For letter A, it's hard to think of anything else. For C, you might be thinking, well, this looks like it is a line of symmetry. And then you really can't think of anything else. You might think this one works, but if we would fold it over, it definitely wouldn't. So it doesn't look like C is going to work because this line here doesn't work. If we go to letter B, it looks like we have two lines of symmetry. We have one just like that and one like that. So we think B should be the answer. But let's just check out letter D. Looks like we have one line of symmetry there. And that should be it. Whenever we try that one, I don't believe that works. So it looks like B is the right answer. This problem here, question 8 says, which is the converse of the following statement? So you should remember the conditional was if P then Q. The converse, which is what we're looking for, was just where we flipped it, if Q then P. The other ones that you need to know are the inverse, which is where we take the original order and we put the knots in, and the contrapositive, which is where we flip the original and put knots in. So all we're doing is changing the order. So it's going to be if A equals BC, then A over B equals C. So question 9 is asking us about which graph best represents a line perpendicular to line K. So remember, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals. The slopes. So what is the slope here? We go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. So our slope is 6 over 4, which is equal to 3 over 2. So we need, that didn't quite right. We need a slope of negative 2 over 3. So we take the reciprocal, 3 over 2, the reciprocal is 2 over 3. It was positive before, now it has to be negative. So let's take a look at A. We go down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. A doesn't work. We go down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C doesn't work. For this one, we go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I'm out of line, so let's erase some. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 4 and 7. That doesn't work. And this last one, we get down 1, 2, out of lines again. So we get down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, went down too far. Let's try this one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we get down 4, to the right 6, and that will be equal to negative 2 over 3. So D is the right answer. This one here says, which statement describes the construction being illustrated in the rectangle shown? So to do this, let's make the construction again. The first step is actually too small to put on our compass, but we should be able to put that line right there if you can visualize that. And then the other thing you're doing is taking this. Again, it's too small, but we should be making the lines. So unfortunately, this doesn't serve well for our compass, but you should see that when we connect the dots, we're going through G and through this point. Whenever we do that, we have a right angle. So we're making a perpendicular to AB, which is going through point G, which is not on AB. So this part here is good, but we're not going through point E. None of the other answers make any sense, so D is the right answer. For number 11, it says 4 lines and 4 congruent angles are identified in the diagram. We're looking for which statement must be true. Well, maybe it would make more sense if we plug in some information with our linear pairs. And vertical angles for that matter. Because by the looks of this, you would probably think that all the lines are going to be parallel. Whoops, this is 89.9. So whenever we do this, you should be able to see something. We have corresponding angles that are congruent. So M and N are definitely parallel. So M and N are parallel. But what about lines P and lines Q? So that would mean we would need this angle to be congruent to this one. That doesn't work. So P and Q are not parallel. You should be able to see it a little bit better with corresponding angles if you put in all those angles. You don't even need to put all of them in. I just did it for extra effect. So our answer is going to be only M is parallel to N. For this problem here, it says the figure shows segment JN and segment KM intersecting at point L. This says what value of X proves JK is parallel to MN. So we're going to say we want these lines to be parallel, and we have this line right here. This angle has to be equal to this one because they are alternate interior angles. So that last angle has to be 80 degrees because all three angles need to add up to 180. So I got that from 180 minus 61 minus 39, which is 80. So then I have to type in 80 is equal to 3x plus 5. So it's a simple algebra problem. I subtract 5, and then I divide by 3. So x is going to be equal to 25. So how we enter it, we use the pointer tool, we go down here, and we punch in 25. So this one here says which segment is congruent to MP. So remember, if we want to find congruent segments, we have to use our compass. So let's figure out how long MP is. So we have to do our best to get it right in the center there, and the tip right on the center. So MP is that long. Notice I locked my compass. So now I can go to SV. Is SV the same length? Well, it looks like SV is a little bit too short. What about SW? SW looks even shorter. We have TU as an option. TU looks too short. And our last option is TV. And as you can see, TV goes right through the point. So TV is the correct answer. If you're good with your tools, this is a very easy problem. This problem says triangle ABC is reflected across the x-axis. and then reflect it across the y-axis. So first we need to reflect it across the x-axis and then the y-axis. So what are the coordinates of A prime? Well, A, first we need to reflect it across the x-axis. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4 away, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's reflected across the x-axis. Did that backwards. So this is reflected across the x-axis. Then we need to reflect it across the y-axis. So I'm 1 away from the y-axis, so I'm 1 away here. So this is my new point. This point here is -1, -4. So the answer to this is C. When you take the time to read this problem, it's pretty easy. The last one we're going to do for this video is number 15. So it says a diagonal walkway cuts through a park bordered by 2 parallel streets. So that's some key information there. 2 parallel streets. The Parks Department plans to add an additional walkway as indicated by the dashed line segment in the figure. What is the value of x? So remember, we have 2 parallel streets. So if this is 132, this one right here has to be 132. That's outside the triangle. Inside the triangle is just 180 minus 132, which is 48. So what's x need to be? 180 minus 90 minus 48. So our answer is just 42. If there are any things you were unsure of, be sure to just go back and watch the video, slow it down, pause it, make sure you're reading everything. I tried to do a good job of circling or highlighting those key words like what, which, that come up in these problems.